For reasons I don't fully comprehend at the moment, I felt terrible about a few things. Actually, upon its 1971 debut, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour topped the ratings. Despite their physical altercations, a hidden secret drove a wedge between them. The horrifying reality of Sonny's treachery, the contract that enslaved Cher, and the balcony of the Las Vegas hotel where she contemplated suicide are all laid out here. This is the tale of infidelity and stolen money that tore America's favorite couple apart. On February 16, 1935, in the city of Detroit, Michigan, Sonny Bono came into this world. Salvatore Philip Bono is his full name. His Sicilian parents were John and Santo Bono. They had frequent fights, sometimes in front of their children, and Jean was just 14 years old when they were married. In 1942, the family set out for Englewood, California, hoping to improve their lot in life. Although his parents wanted him to pursue a career in medicine or law, Sonny had other plans. He eventually dropped out of school to focus on music full-time because he was having so much trouble in class. The spotlight always seemed to be on Sonny, even as a little boy. He made his stage debut in a high school play in Detroit. After relocating to California with his family, he started performing at school functions. His dad's musical talents included the banjo and accordion, so their home was constantly filled with music. After that, when Sonny was a teenager, he was already writing songs and picking up new instruments, such as the conga drum. However, he had to juggle numerous jobs to ensure his survival because making it in the music industry was no picnic. He wore a bloody butcher's coat while driving a truck, waiting tables, constructing buildings, and delivering meat. Sonny began to get serious singing opportunities towards the decade's conclusion in the 1950s. At the age of 16, he had already sold his first song, and by 1957, he was employed by Specialty Records. Working with one of the industry's most prominent producers taught Sonny the ins and outs of songwriting and music production. The Ronettes' Be My Baby is one of his many hit singles. However, Sonny was not the shy type who kept his opinions to himself. He spoke out about how repetitive Spector's production style was. That led to his dismissal from his position. Sonny, instead of giving up, decided to take a detour, which led him to the young singer Cher. El Centro, California was the site of her birth on May 20, 1946. She eventually became famous as Cher. Her upbringing was difficult. Her dad, John Sarkeesian, was a truck driver with an addiction to gaming and drugs. He lived a solitary life. Georgia Holt, Cher's mother, had aspirations of becoming an actress and wed multiple times to provide stability for Cher and her half-sister Gorgon, but the funds were few. When Georgia's mental health began to decline, she sought solace in placing Cher in a Catholic home. In anticipation of the day she would be able to return her daughter home, she made her daily pilgrimage there. The family frequently relocated from California to Nevada and vice versa, as Georgia sought acting roles while working low-paying jobs. Despite everything, Cher displayed early indications of talent. She took charge of the Oklahoma School musical by the time she was in 5th grade and even stepped in to play the male lead when the boys refused to participate. She stood out due to her deep voice. Her idols were Marlene Dietrich and Audrey Hepburn, and she aspired to be an actress like them, but she doubted her own abilities. She doubted her ability to achieve stardom in Hollywood because she didn't think she was attractive. High school was not easy. Because Cher was unaware that she had dyslexia, she struggled in school. At the age of 16, she dropped out of school. She left school to pursue a career in show business after realizing she didn't enjoy it and moved to Los Angeles. She did everything in her power to meet the right people and earn a living dancing on Sunset Strip. Sonny Bono was her next encounter in 1962. Sonny and Cher first crossed paths in the fall of 1962. They were 16 and 27 years old, respectively. Additionally, Cher had recently left her mother's residence. Phil Spector was Sonny's boss. She was staying with a friend so she could focus on her acting career. They met through mutual acquaintances in the LA music scene and became fast friends. Even Cher failed to perceive any quality in herself that Sonny did. Her voice wasn't the only one. She didn't even try to be famous. Her charisma and poise were enough to make her famous. In his heart, he hoped she would achieve greatness, and he was determined to be her supporter. He connected Cher with Phil Spector, who then allowed her to provide background vocals on several of Spector's hit songs. She can be heard singing on two different songs, Be My Baby by the Ronettes and You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin' by the Righteous Brothers. She had the opportunity to experience professional recording, and it was like getting a crash course in the music business. A major obstacle stood in Cher's way before she could truly shine. Homelessness was her only option. She was homeless following her friend's departure. At that moment, Sonny struck a deal with her. Cleaning his house was all that was required of her to move into his apartment for free. Cher consented despite her financial and housing crises at the age of 16. She did the cooking, cleaning, and helping to keep everything in its place. Afterwards, she confided in Sonny about her lack of culinary skills, but he appeared unconcerned. Initially, their relationship wasn't romantic. Keeping alive and succeeding were the driving forces. The more time they spent together, the closer they became. All night long, they practiced music and encouraged each other to improve. Caesar and Cleo, their stage roles, were completed by the year's end 1964. That moniker was short-lived. In 1965, they decided to go by the name Sonny and Cher instead. In 1965, in his Laurel Canyon garage, Sonny composed I Got You Babe on a little $85 piano. In that particular year, a sea change occurred. There was a lot of youthful love and rebellion during that time, and he wanted to convey that in his painting. He played the song for Cher one night after she woke up. She was unimpressed. Although she didn't consider it significant, Sonny was certain that they were involved in something. He built the recording using an approach similar to Phil Spector's wall of sound, which entails layering instruments to create a dense, full sound. The addition of the balalaika by the talented composer Harold Batiste gave the song its distinctive sound. Upon receiving the song from Sonny, Atco Records expressed doubts about its commercial potential. Still, he was determined not to surrender. He personally distributed copies and persuaded DJs to play it on the radio. He was rewarded for his efforts. The Billboard Hot 100 single, I Got You Babe, peaked on August 14, 1965. Over 3 million books were sold in that time. It dethroned the Beatles' Help as the top hit in the UK. Sonny and Cher shot to international superstardom in the blink of an eye. On shows like Thank Your Lucky Stars and Ready Steady Go, they performed to audiences that just couldn't get enough of them. Unfortunately, not everyone was pleased to have them. When Cher entered the music industry, she stood out from the other clean-cut acts thanks to her long, straight hair and bold eyeliner. Fur coats and shaggy mod suits were Sonny's uniform. Because they were novel, some critics dismissed them. Some nightclubs and eateries wouldn't even serve them because of their wild appearance. In contrast, the English public reacted differently. When their unisex style was well received by British fans, their success skyrocketed. Rumor has it that the Hilton Hotel in London kicked them out of their tour because of their attire. A public relations stunt that went viral included all of this. Whether or not the story was accurate, it increased their fame. Sonny and Cher persisted despite widespread disapproval. Their image was carefully crafted by Sonny, who ensured they remained authentic while also appealing to a diverse audience. Reviewers began to focus more on them over time. Their continued success after 1967's The Beat Goes On proved they weren't a one-hit wonder. They were famous for more than just their music. Their music vividly depicted the era of social upheaval and revolution that was the 1960s. Cher's daring fashion choices ignited fads, while Sonny's easygoing demeanor promoted conventional notions of masculinity. Beyond being artists, they were extraordinary. They represented a greater cause. By 1967, Sonny and Cher's music had surpassed 40 million global sales. True fame, however, is fleeting. The tunes were changing. With the rise of psychedelic rock, their folk pop sound became dated. It was difficult for albums such as Good Times to gain traction. By 1968, no stadium had ever sold out. Unlike when they were dominating the scene a few years ago, they were now playing for smaller clubs. At first, the subject was solely music. Something odd, though, occurred as they performed night after night. The innate charisma of Cher started to radiate. In the midst of her song, she began to insult Sonny. He allowed herself to tease him while feigning ignorance of the situation. It felt fresh and modern, but it brought to mind classic comedic duos when they exchanged lines. Many were quite pleased. They visited for the music, but ended up staying for the laughter. The news spread rapidly. They stumbled into an unexpected opportunity because of the way they changed. Their performance caught the eye of Fred Silverman, the head of CBS's programming department in the early 1970s. Even though he had witnessed their chemistry as Merv Griffin's show guests, seeing them live solidified his belief that they belonged on television. Back then, this was a huge gamble. Many variety shows were already airing, and viewers weren't exactly flocking to them. Additionally, it had a negative impact on Sonny and Cher's careers. When Cher made her film debut in 1969 with Chastity, it bombed at the box office. Even though they were making progress in paying off their debt, their music was stagnant. However, Silverman perceived another quality in them. To him, it seemed like the perfect blend of musical numbers and comedic timing. The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour was aired for 6 episodes in August 1971 on CBS. Rather than another program, reading it was a breeze. The opening theme song was played before the beat goes on. The jokes started after that. Sharp, mocking barbs were thrown by Cher. The charming, naughty fool was Sonny. George Burns and the Jackson 5 were among the celebrities who appeared in subsequent sketches and musical numbers. Bob Mackie designed Cher's ostentatious clothing, which catapulted her to stardom. Instantly, the show became popular. By January 1972, it had already broken into the top 10 shows on CBS and was airing continuously. The tempo of each show was consistent. Sonny and Cher would begin by performing a duet. Most often, the beat goes on. They proceeded to tease one another. As the sarcastic, domineering Cher, Sonny played the role of the naive, kind-hearted husband. The chemistry between them made the scripted jokes sound natural. Adding to the enjoyment of the show were the comedic sketches. Repetition of scenes, such as Mr. making fun of everyday life on Ms. Sonny's Pizza and TV, was hilarious. One who stood out, though, was Vamp. Cher showed her comedic and glamorous sides in her role as a wild femme fatale. Guests on the show included Ronald Reagan, Farrah Fawcett, Farrah Burnett, and the Jackson 5. While each of these appearances added spice, the spotlight was mostly on Cher. Bob Mackie designed her stunning, unique, and daring wardrobe. They garnered just as much interest as the program itself. It was unexpected for the show to become so popular, but it did. It maintained a consistent top 20 position by the conclusion of season 2. The audience started to anticipate Cher's witty remarks on the program. She had this knack for bringing Sonny down with simple, fast entertainment. She teased him about his height, intelligence, and singing abilities. No matter how biting her jokes were, they were always harmless. As Sonny's voice went off key, she uttered one of her most memorable lines. She continued without pausing, saying, "I can't be off key because you're the only one singing." Her unconventional take on the traditional husband and wife dynamic was much admired. Instead of being the passive spouse, she took the lead. In the early 70s, this was quite rare. It was expected that women on TV would mostly lend a hand. Cher became famous for many people because she defied that stereotype. Music and humorous things were equally important.